Hello friends, today we will be discussing an important topic of microbiology, that is the family Enterobacteriaceae. The family Enterobacteriaceae. It's Enterobacteriaceae, not Enterococcus. Okay friends, it's Enterobacteriaceae. See, I want to make this thing first conceptual because it's an important bacteria. Always asked one question at least from this bacteria. Enterobacteriaceae is a family. Okay. To call, so it will have many members in it. So to call someone, in the family of Enterobacteriaceae, they should have 6 properties. Listen to my words clearly. In order to call someone to be in the family of Enterobacteriaceae, they should have 6 properties. What? 6 properties. So 6 properties to be called as Enterobacteriaceae. Number 1, they should be gram-negative bacilli. They are gram-negative bacilli. Second, cat positive. Third, ox negative. Easy. And they should be non-fastidious. They should be non-fastidious. I have tried to make it easy, guys, because Enterobacteriaceae confuses you. If you follow the way what I am going to write and speak, please write in that way. Don't take any note from the market and write on that. Or don't take your already taken notes and write on that. Make a fresh note, write the fresh note. The things which are written by your own hands are retained more. It's scientifically proven. Stanford says that, Harvard says that. I am not saying. The things which are written, which you understand and you have written in your note, and even if you forget after 5 days, the day when you open the note, you will get to know everything in 5 minutes. I'm telling you, the things which are written with your own handwriting, with your own meaning, even, they are retained more. So I know it takes hard work to write. It gets pain in the muscles of hand, intrinsic muscles of hand, but yeah, it's worth it. You are going to shine. Write notes, make clean notes, write whatever I say. Don't write more than that. Don't become authors. Don't become microbiologists. So fourth one, they should be non-fastidious. Non-fastidious means, I have taught you that they don't need any special media. They don't need any special growth factor. They don't need any extra requirement. They can grow in ordinary media. Fifth one, they should give us a positive nitrate reduction test. They should give us a positive nitrate reduction test. Because mostly what I am seeing, the trend is happening. By the way, I want to say, because it's a live classroom, what is happening that in the market everywhere, the people, once they don't open books, they are opening notes. Which notes? Photocopied notes. I promise them, at that moment they will feel happy, they will study. But at the end of the day, when you have 10 days for your entry test or your 10 days for your licensing exam, believe me, the most stressful condition at that time. And if you are not able to understand a simple concept, you will vanish. All confidence will get loose. No confidence. Okay. I have one dictum for myself, what I follow for my life when I'm preparing for any exam, what I have learned from my mistakes also. Books should not be read before your entrance exams. Books are to be read for the whole year. What is to be done? You have to study, make lucid notes. Revise those notes only. Reread them. It's better to read a note 10 times than go to read 10 books. Okay, those books, yeah, you may use them as a show off in your room, but yeah, no, people buy books, then they keep on the shelves. No fun, no use. Read one book, understand the fact, listen to my lectures. At least if you are writing our notes, it's, I've covered everything. Still, you have to go home, read the book, but note should be this. So it gives us a positive nitrate reduction test. Means, what was that test? In the general principles of microbiology, I want to give a hint because some people are new here. Nitrate is reduced to nitrite. Nitrate is reduced to nitrite. If something is reducing nitrate to nitrite, this is called a positive nitrate reduction test. Sixth, they ferment glucose. They ferment sugar. There are some exceptions, okay, that I will be telling you in the coming discussions. So let us take the first bacteria of this family. So do you understand these 6 properties to be called in the family of Enterobacteriaceae? They should be gram negative rods. They should be cat positive. Sir, how to remember cat positive, oxidation negative? Remember like this. See, if you want to balance something, what you do? You do plus and minus. If you want to balance something, you add something and you minus something. That is why I am remembering it. Cat positive, ox negative. One is positive, one is negative. This is how I remember. Now, taking first bacteria of this family, that is E. coli, important. The full form of E. coli is Escherichia coli. Escherichia coli. Escherichia coli. Escherichia coli. Okay, friends. Escherichia coli. Escherichia coli is motile plus peritrichus. What is peritrichus, guys? Peritrichus means it has flagella all around its body, all around its structure. It is a motile plus peritrichus flagella. Once you put it on a MacConkey agar, it turns the MacConkey agar to pink. It means it's dash fermenter. Lactose fermenter. That's a beautiful answer. It's a lactose fermenter. Once you see beautiful answers from everyone, great. It's a lactose fermenter. Okay. So MacConkey agar. So let us tell you first what is the selective. What is the selective media for this? So if I go into the culture in the culture part, I will see, if I talk about the selective media, selective media is, you have to remember this much: MacConkey agar and EMB agar. Okay. EMB agar, MacConkey agar and EMB agar. Okay. You should know from the concepts, there is some question that it should not be non-fastidious and why selective. By the way, we are not here, we have E. coli various strains. I will be telling you, there are others which are also growing with it. We want a selective media for everything so that I can only get the bacteria. I have taught you in the basic fundamentals of microbiology. We want this specific bacteria to isolate. There are so many bacteria which are non-fastidious. So all non-fastidious bacteria will come into that media. So what is selective for this media? But remember, I want to tell you one fact. If you had to ask a question, you should have asked like this. Sir, You should say that the media which we are using for gram negatives is the same media we are using for Mekong agar, because we know from the basics concept that majority of the gram bacteria we are using what gram negative bacteria, we are using Mekong agar. Mekong agar is the selective media for majority of the gram negative bacteria, where we are appreciating pink colonies. Is it clear, friends? So Mekong agar, this is the agar which we are using in the majority of gram negative bacteria. Majority of the gram negative bacteria as a selective media. So you will be appreciating what colonies? Pink colonies. EMB agar. What is the full form of EMB agar? It's eosine methylene blue agar. We have, I think, discussed it in in many topics, but still I'm writing the full form. This is the last time I will be writing. So you'll be appreciating some green metallic sheen. This is how I remember. Green metallic sheen colonies. Green metallic sheen colonies. So I remember two things about selective media. Mekong agar is selective media for majority of gram-negative bacteria. Eosine methylene blue agar, EMB agar is giving us a green metallic sheen colonies. Okay. So talking about the structure of this bacilli, structure of this bacteria. If I talk about if I talk about the virulent factors. Virulent factors, we have to remember it has somatic antigen. It has somatic antigen that is called O antigen. O antigen. And you should know from the fact that there are more than 175 antigens available. There are more than 175 antigens for this O antigen. So if you want to remember one fact about this, remember it is equal to, it behaves like an endotoxin for Amara. Endotoxin for Amara. Okay. Isn't it? Endotoxin for Amara. Okay. Behaves as an endotoxin. So second I can write as flagellar antigen. Flagellar antigen, H antigen. Flagellar antigen, H antigen. What? H antigen. H antigen, there are more than 50 antigen types for this. More than 50 antigen types. Capsular antigen. If there are small doubts which I have already discussed, you should please for what? Please repeat your question. No, you didn't understand my point. I have written equal to, it is similar to endotoxin. Think O antigen is like a endotoxin. Why don't you listen to the word full sentence? I said, my friend, I said the name of this student who used to ask me questions on endotoxin. That means I can't even joke. You're not understanding the joke even. 50 antigen types, 50 antigen types. So capsular antigen, it's actually a state of hypoglycemia, isn't it? The guy is in a state of hypoglycemia. Perfect signs of hypoglycemia. So capsular antigen is C for capsule, but not K antigen. It's K antigen. K antigen. More than 100 types of K antigen available. What is the function of K? Antiphagocytic. Behaves as an antiphagocytic. Behaves as antiphagocytic. Next is fimbrial antigen. Fimbriae. Fimbriae is P. Fimbriae. P. Fimbriae. How we remember? P for guys, P for people, P for person. No, P for what? P for pyelonephric fimbriae. Some people have requested me to write cleanly, so that's why I'm writing cleanly. Otherwise, I don't like to write because it consumes time. We want to remember concepts in a smart way. Today, just writing it cleanly. So pyelonephric fimbriae, it is for the attachment purposes. Okay, attachment, like you get attached, exactly same. Attachment helps in the attachment. Next is the CFA. What is CFA? Colonizing factor antigen. Colonizing factor antigen. What is the function of this colonizing factor? Same, attachment. Okay. It, by the way, in addition to somatic antigen, flagellar antigen, capsular antigen, fimbriae, CFA, it has hemolysis and enterotoxins. So we have somatic antigen, flagellar antigen, capsular antigen, fimbriae, CFA. So somatic antigen, O antigen greater than, there are more than 175 antigens. Flagellar antigen, H antigen, 50 antigen types. Capsular antigen, K antigen, 100 types. Fimbriae, P fimbriae, P for pyelonephritic fimbriae, attachment. K, CFA, colonizing factor antigen, attachment, hemolysis and enterotoxins. I hope there is no confusion remembering its structure. Okay, friends, is it clear? Is there any doubt? What two media you remember? What two media you remember? What two media you remember about E. coli, guys? What two media you remember about E. coli? Just write EMB, beautiful answer. And McConkey, that's a beautiful answer. Great student. Great. Okay. So now see, if I go into the clinical features of this bacteria, to remember everything about it clinically, whatever is significant clinically. How to remember? I don't know. How to remember, guys? Yeah, we will remember like this. So the clinical features. Clinical features of this bacteria, I remember like this. Remember 3 points. No, I don't know how you will be digesting every page of microbiology, but this is how I digest every important concept of microbiology. So 3 clinical features under 3 headings, remember. Diarrhea, urinary tract infection, UTI, urinary tract infection, septicemia, guys, septicemia, UTI, diarrhea, septicemia, UTI, urinary tract infection, diarrhea, urinary tract infection, diarrhea, septicemia. Okay. Even if we speak 100 times for you, still you don't understand. That's why speaking again and again, so that my students remember more. Okay. Now going into the clinical features. In the clinical features, what is it causing? Diarrhea is caused by which E. coli? Dirogenic E. coli. UTI is caused by Uropathogenic E. coli. Uropathogenic E. coli. Septicemia is caused by septicemic E. coli. Septicemic E. coli. Easy this way. Okay. Now dirogenic E. coli are of 6 types. Dirogenic E. coli are of 6 types. Okay. Before going into that, I want to speak something important about dirogenic E. coli in detail, about these 6 types. Okay. I want to speak some important thing. Put a big star on that. So I am going to take this first one. Dirogenic E. coli. Dirogenic E. coli. This dirogenic E. coli is basically, it's of 6 types. Okay. 6 types. How to make diarrhea color? Diarrhea color should be brown, isn't it? Okay. So 6 types of dirogenic E. coli. The way I'm writing, please write that way. Okay. We have E, P, E, C. See, I will give you a trick first. See, whenever you have to describe a type, you have to at the end attach EC. So whatever 6 types I am speaking, they will have EC in their end. Only beginning initials are to be changed according to the type, whatever nature they have. For example, I am writing like this. E, P, E, C. It's enteropathogenic E. coli. It's enteropathogenic E. coli. So enteropathogenic E. coli. Enteropathogenic E. coli. Second, E, T, E, C. Enterotoxigenic E. coli. Enterotoxigenic E. coli. Next, E, I, E, C. Enteroinvasive E. coli. Enteroinvasive E. coli. Done. Enteroinvasive E. coli. Fourth one, enterohemorrhagic E. coli. Can we see we are attaching EC at the end? Sixth, enteroaggregative E. coli. How many? 5. How many, guys? Now sixth. What is sixth? Who can tell me sixth? Who can tell me sixth, guys? Who can tell me the sixth? DAEC. Beautiful answer. DAEC. DAEC means diffusely adherent E. coli. Diffusely adherent E. coli. Okay, very good. So EPEC is enteropathogenic E. coli. ETEC is, let us write for you, enteropathogenic E. coli. This is enterotoxigenic E. coli. This is enteroinvasive E. coli. This is enterohemorrhagic E. coli. This is enteroaggregative AGGREGATIVE aggregative DAEC. It's diffusely adherent E. coli. Okay, this is what you have to remember, guys. No choice to forget. No choice to forget about dirogenic E. coli. Let us take one by one. Let us take the first one. It's EPEC. EPEC. EPEC is enteropathogenic E. coli. This is enterohemorrhagic E. coli, guys. This is enterohemorrhagic E. coli. Okay. EPEC. So who can tell me something about EPEC? EPEC is, I have to remember like this. This is P. This is P. So it causes diarrhea in pediatric age group. Pediatric age group diarrhea. That is children, isn't it? The children it's causing. It's non-invasive, guys. It's non-invasive. Okay. What does it do is, can you tell me? It has dash to produce effacing lesions. What is the substance it has? So this non-invasive lesion, it's a non-invasive. EPEC is a non-invasive. And do you know, it is showing the same feature. Now, I was telling you, I was asking you a question, by the way, it got disconnected in the middle. I was saying, you know, you have a characteristic lesion. What it does, first I will tell you, this EPEC is attaching to enterocytes. Do we know enterocytes, guys? Cells of the intestine. They attach to the enterocytes and damage them, and damage them, and damage them, and damage them. Now, it has been seen that they produce, that those lesions are called as attachment effacement lesion. What? Attachment effacement lesion. Attachment effacement lesion. So I was asking you the question, how can you produce this attaching and effacing lesion? Who can give us a little, want a class to be interactive? If someone knows, they say yes, something no, so that I can proceed fast. Very nice. It flattens the villi, but yeah, what is the reason? That's actually the lesion. You have that. No, it is having a protein. That protein is called BPP. BPP is called bundle forming pili, or you say pili. Okay, pili or pili, one and the same thing. But don't do it A. Okay, so bundle forming pili. Bundle forming pili. What it does is, with this bundle forming pili, it attaches to one villi. This is villi, intestinal villi. They are increasing the surface area of absorption. You have a villi here. So it attached this BPP, with the help of BPP, it's attaching here. Now it blunts this. Next goes to next villi, blunts this. Goes to next villi, blunts this. One damaged, next going to be damaged. Next damage, next of next going to be damaged. Next of next damaged, next of next of next going to be damaged. This concept is called attaching and effacing lesion. Is it clear, guys, now? Is it clear? This damaged, next villi is the target. This damaged, next villi is the target. Is it clear? So it has been seen that EPEC is showing us the features. It is actually mimicking. It is doing a mimicry. It is doing a mimicry of cholera. That's why we call it, since it's causing in the children, we call it cholera infantum. We call it cholera infantum. Cholera infantum. The points which are letting you write, please write these points. That's it. EPEC pediatric children non-invasive effacing and attachment lesions caused because of the blunting of villi. One villi blunted, damaged, next villi blunted, damaged, next villi blunted, damaged. BFP, sorry, it was not BPP. Bundle forming villi. BFP. Second, let us go to the second. Second one is, guys, what was the second in the list? ETEC. Okay, first one is done now. ETEC, guys. ETEC. ETEC stands for ETEC stands for traveler's diarrhea. The most common cause, there are so many organisms which are causing traveler's diarrhea, my dears. But ETEC is the most common. It's an important objective question. It is the most common cause of. It is the most common cause of traveler's diarrhea. It's the most common cause of traveler's diarrhea. It has two toxins. There are two toxins. Okay, ETEC produces two toxins. One is heat stable toxin. Another is heat labile toxin. Another is heat labile toxin. Heat stable toxin, it's asked which mechanism does it use. Heat stable toxin uses CGMP. It increases the CGMP levels. It increases the CGMP levels. Okay. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So I will write, okay. So let us write first, okay. Let us write and then I explain. So see, next we have EIEC, that is enteroinvasive E. coli. See, I, remember, I is for invasiveness. That is, it is having an antigen. It is having a specific antigen that is called as VMA. VMA is known as virulent marker antigen. Virulent marker antigen. This virulent marker antigen is actually invasive in nature, and that's why it is causing an invasive diarrhea. It's causing an invasive diarrhea. And what will happen once this VMA goes to this enterocyte? What it does, it will produce ulcerations. It will produce ulcerations. So ulcerations. ulcerations. This ulceration will lead to dysentery. So there are two concepts. One is diarrhea, one is dysentery. What is the difference? Dysentery is when there is a loose stool with mucus plus blood. Mucus plus blood is dysentery. When you have only loose stools without blood, there is only loose stools without blood, that is diarrhea. Dysentery means mucus plus blood in the stools. Is it okay? Is it clear? But it causes dysentery. Definitely, sir, it's causing ulceration, so blood will start oozing from that region. Okay. So one important concept about EIEC is please make a star. Please make a star, a 3-star question. They will ask you, which of the following is an atypical E. coli? Which of the following EPEC, EIEC, ETEC, EHEC, EAEC, DAEC, which of the following is an atypical E. coli? This is an atypical E. coli. Why, sir, atypical? Because what were all E. coli families doing? They were lactose fermenting. Were they motile or not? Were they motile or not? Were they motile or not, guys? But this is the E. coli who is non-motile and non-lactose fermenter. Non-motile, non-lactose fermenter. So this is non-motile and non-lactose fermental. That's why we call it atypical E. coli. EIEC is atypical E. coli. Invasive is atypical E. coli. EIEC is atypical E. coli. Non-lactose fermenter, non-motile. Will McConkey give me something? Can McConkey show something? Can McConkey show something? No, sir, never possible. How it can show? Non-lactose fermenter, how it can show pink colonies? Never. Is the concept clear? Is it conceptual? We're conceptually learning microbiology. We are enjoying microbiology. Okay. So this is the concept. Fourth thing I will take. What was the fourth in the list? This is done. This is also done. Then hemorrhagic. Then hemorrhagic. EHEC. Enterohemorrhagic Escherichia coli. It has an antigen that is O157H7. This was the favorite serotype I remember about EHEC. So O157H7. Okay. So it's 1 O57 H7. O157H7. It's basically a serotype, okay? Serotype of EHEC. Okay, so EHEC, I don't know, suddenly there is some technical issue. What happens every time? Yesterday also this happened. So so I said O157H7. Basically, what is O? O is denoting somatic antigen. H is showing me flagellar antigen. I told you already in the beginning. Okay, so this is what it is showing. So what will happen that this is responsible for two things. First, this serotype is producing a toxin that is called virocytotoxin. What? Virocytotoxin. 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 And they also categorize it as 1 and 2. Okay, just remember virocytotoxin. This viro, or can I say this bacteria by another name, that is virotoxinogenic E. coli? Can I call it virotoxinogenic E. coli or toxigenic E. coli? What it does is, it is said that it is behaving like the toxin of Shigella. So if we call it Shiga-like toxin. Shiga-like toxin. So they say it is like Shiga-like toxin. What is the mechanism behind this is, this virocytotoxin binds to the 28S ribosomal subunit of 60S ribosome and finally leads to the inhibition of protein synthesis. Okay, understood? So 20S ribosomal subunit of 60s ribosome, isn't it? You have ribosomal subunits and will inhibit the protein synthesis. Will inhibit the protein synthesis. Is it clear, guys? 28S of 60S ribosome and inhibits protein synthesis. This is the mechanism of this verocytotoxin or virotoxin, whatever you want to say. Second thing, this concept, what a patient will come to you, what examiner will also be asking you. He will say a patient is coming to you, he has consumed some ground beef. He has consumed ground beef or ham. I hope you know ham, pork. Okay, ham is pork. So they have taken this and the person developed dysentery. You should think what is the agent? What is the agent? What is the causative organism for this case? It is enterohemorrhagic E. coli. Enterohemorrhagic E. coli. I don't know why I love medicine. Huh? So enterohemorrhagic E. coli. We can predict so many things after having the knowledge of everything, isn't it? So beautiful that you can directly say, yeah, it can be this antigen, can be this bacteria, which you can't even see with the naked eye. And this clinical medicine, medical science is teaching you that you have to, the bacteria. Probably 90-95% you know that mostly it will be the organism which is causing the disease. That's a beautiful thing. The thing which you can't see with even with the normal light microscope is you can see with your clinical knowledge. That's a beautiful thing. It causes another syndrome that's called as hemolytic uremic syndrome. Important. One, it caused what? It caused this, this enteritis. Okay, it caused this one, this enteritis. Another, it will cause another disease. It will causes, or you can say it causes what? Hemorrhagic colitis. It causes hemorrhagic colitis. And important thing is hemolytic uremic syndrome. What is hemolytic uremic syndrome? Hemolytic uremic syndrome. What is hemolytic uremic syndrome, guys? If I go into the medicine or pathology, hemolytic uremic syndrome is basically a syndrome which is characterized by acute renal failure, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, and thrombocytopenia. What? Should I write for you? If you want, I can write for you. What is a hemolytic uremic syndrome? Hemolytic uremic syndrome is basically a triad of symptoms. It's a triad of symptoms characterized by acute renal failure, excuse me, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, and thrombocytopenia. This should be on the tip of your tongue. Thrombocytopenia. This is a hemolytic uremic syndrome. We write it HUS. So EHEC is causing hemorrhagic colitis, hemolytic uremic syndrome. That's a triad of acute renal failure, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, thrombocytopenia. EHEC friends, EHEC O157 H7 antigen causing hemolytic uremic syndrome, mostly in the children group, and hemorrhagic colitis. Hemolytic uremic syndrome characterized by acute renal failure, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, thrombocytopenia, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, thrombocytopenia, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, thrombocytopenia. And if you want to culture this EHEC, you will be using McConkey sorbitol agar. Why, sir? What is McConkey sorbitol agar? What is McConkey sorbitol agar, guys? So guys, what is this sorbitol agar, guys? Basically, it's a simple technique what we are doing. EHEC is having very nice, beautiful answer. Sharia has given a beautiful answer. EHEC does not ferment sorbitol. EHEC does not ferment sorbitol. So what we do is, we put the sorbitol instead of lactose. We put the sorbitol instead of lactose. So what we do is we replace the lactose from the McConkey agar by sorbitol. And once I put EHEC on it, what will happen? What will happen? It will not ferment sorbitol. It will not ferment sorbitol. You will not ferment sorbitol. You confuse yourself with everything. That's why I am telling you to write notes. You confuse yourself with everything. He says does not ferment lactose. We are saying does not ferment sorbitol. So that means once it does not ferment sorbitol, it will give us a colorless colonies. It will give us colorless colonies. It will give us colorless colonies. So we have colorless colonies in sorbitol McConkey agar. Once we are putting EHEC on it, EHEC on it. Easy. Next we go to the simple funda principle. That is, what was the fourth we have finished. Then we go to this 1, 2, 3, 4 EAEC. We go to fifth EAEC. EAEC means enteroaggregative E. coli. Enteroaggregative E. coli. What is special about this E. coli? Who can tell me? Yes, I will give him a chocolate or her chocolate once I come back to that place wherever you reside someday. So what is special about this? I'm not talking about the meaning enteroaggregative E. coli. I'm talking what is special about this. How will you differentiate this from the others? Now everyone is causing diarrhea. So how will you differentiate? Some is causing pediatric age group diarrhea. Some is causing hemolytic uremic syndrome. Some is causing hemorrhagic colitis. The thing to remember is EAEC. Yeah, exactly. By pattern of exactly. But that's okay. That's okay. That's also fine. That it is using it's using. Let me add this point to this student. Very nicely answered, Sharia. Aggressive adhesion. Aggressive adhesion by Fimbriae. But what is special about it? The special about it is no. The special about it is having a toxin that is called enteroaggregative stable toxin. Enteroaggregative stable toxin. We call it yeast. Okay. So remember, it causes chronic diarrhea. So once aggressive adhesion is happening, that aggregativeness is also happening. So it will cause us a chronic diarrhea. Also called, can say also persistent diarrhea. Okay. So chronic diarrhea it is causing. Okay. So last one, but not the least, DAEC. DAEC is diffusely adherent E. coli. Okay, diffusely adherent E. coli, guys. Diffusely adherent E. coli, you have to remember it will attach to the HAP2 lines. It attaches to, we have cell lines to check something. We have cell lines, artificial cell lines in the laboratory. The cells, we check. We want to infect those cells and see the response. Okay, so remember, we use HAP2 cell lines. So they will adhere to HAP2 cell lines. Remember, they will adhere to HAP2 cell lines. And finally will lead to diarrhea. These are the 2 points you have to remember. And finally lead to diarrhea. If you want, I can give you a mnemonic we have already made, but yeah, if you want, we can give it a summary table for these 6. What do you think? Should we give a summary table? Let me take a different color. Let me take this color. Okay, guys, let me take this color. Believe me, it's important. They will ask you this question. Atypical, they may ask atypical E. coli. Patient comes to you with ground beef ham and suddenly developed a dysentery has features of acute renal failure and everything. So they may ask you this. Okay, friends. So see, first you have to write like this. See, E P E C, pediatric. Okay, E I E C, invasive diarrhea. Okay, we used to do a Serenity test for this. A Serenity test, but yeah, it's not used these days. So a Serenity test we used to do. So don't remember that. So ETC, traveler's diarrhea. EHEC means H for hemolytic syndrome plus hemolytic uremic syndrome plus hemorrhagic colitis. Then EAEC, aggressive adhesion, and DAEC, directly removable diarrhea. That's it, guys. That's it. That's it to remember 6 in small. Once you are going for your licensing exam, FMG exam or PGI exam, what do? You open this chapter in your note. You read it, for example, 6 months before you have read it. What you do 10 days before the exam? Opening these small boxes. That's it. Opening these small boxes when you have 5-6 days left for your exam. Directly, don't read this. Go to the last page. That's why I gave you in the end of every topic. Go to these small boxes to have a rapid, fast revision. That's how we can help you. We are here making your life easy. Okay. I am here to teach because making life easy, making books easy, making things understandable. That's the task of, as being a student of medicine also. That's actually, I think it's a duty to help your mates, to help your, colleagues, to help your, so in that way I'm saying. Otherwise, it's written in every book. But how we can give a difference, how we can change your understanding, that's what we have to do. That's what we are meant for. So we will continue like an episode to be continued, isn't it? To be continued. So we will continue the discussion tomorrow on this Enterococcus. I hope you have understood and enjoyed this topic. Microbiology is not difficult. If you understand the concept, it's definitely easy. Okay. So people say, sir, you should make a heart for us. Okay, let us make a heart. Thank you all. God bless you. See you tomorrow. Even if it is Sunday, still we will see you tomorrow because we have to study. There is no Sunday for doctors. And enjoy MBBS with confidence. You can do it. Revise this again and again at home. Definitely you will get through. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.